Welcome strong people, I am Sam Spinelli from The Strength Therapist, and today we're going to be talking about Pallof Press variations. The Pallof Press, or the anti-rotation press, is an exercise where we try to resist rotation. So generally it's either done with a band or a cable. I'll be showing everything with a band today. And as we do this, we are trying to stay and stabilize our spine while the rotary force is applied. As we do this, it challenges the musculature around the spine and around the hips, depending upon the variation we use, and so we're able to get a good effect to try and challenge that entire core musculature. Now, while I'm talking about this, it is important to note that strength athletics has a component of rotation, but generally we're looking at sports where there's not a ton of rotation. If we're looking at weightlifting and powerlifting in particular, unless something bad happens, there's pretty much no rotation that occurs from the spine. We're looking at a movement where we go straight up and down, whether it's in the snatch, the clean, the jerk, the squat, bench, deadlift. Minimized rotation is ideal. In contrast, in sports like strongman and Highland Games, there's going to be some components of rotation, similar with CrossFit. However, there's not a ton except for in Highland Games. It is important to note that in all of these, the most primary goal is to be healthy. And by utilizing exercises such as the ones I'm going to be showing today, we're able to encourage you to stay healthy, which will allow you to then train harder in the long term. So we're going to get to going through all these. There's a few different things that I'm going to cover. Number one is going to be different positions that we can utilize this in, and then different modifications that can be made to each of those positions. So as an example, we have different positions of tall kneeling, half kneeling, with the inside leg up, outside leg up, split stance with the outside leg, inside leg up. We can go to laying on the ground in supine position, and all these other modifications or positions that I'm going to take you through, and then we can add a modification to each of those. So it can either be variations where we're just holding in place for a duration of time, or we might draw the alphabet. We might have external perturbations. We might set something up to have an internal type of perturbation where we're self-assisting that. And I'm going to take you through and where we can apply those modifications to each of the positions, and so you have a wide range of ways to train the Pallof Press and improve your rotary stability. In setting up the Pallof Press, in general, we're going to want to have a band or a cable set where it's approximately at hip height, and then from here, depending upon the variation, you'll have to make slight modifications, but it's going to generally be at that height. And what we want to do is we want to be perpendicular to the band. So if the band is going this way, I will be setting up at a 90-degree angle to it. This will allow for a rotational force to be applied, similar to the cable stand. Now, I said that first I was going to go over various types of positions that we can be in, so I'll take you through those first. One of the first positions I start people off with is tall kneeling. This is a position where we have both knees down, we have the feet in contact. It's a very stable position, and from here we're able to get where we work on having the glutes active, posteriorly tilting that pelvis, keeping the rib cage down. It's a position where we can really work on getting into a good, strong, stable spine position and not arching excessively, which will help a lot of people transfer over to their sport and their lifts. Now, I get here, I'm gonna work on getting my hips extended, squeezing my glutes, keeping my ribs down, keeping my head back, and then I will go into my variation that I do with it. So if that's a static type, where I'm just holding it in front, I'll do it for the time listed, and I can hug it back in, go out again, it's a 5-second hold for 5 seconds, and continue on from there. If I want to change up my position, I can then go to half kneeling variations. For example, we have the half kneeling position where I now have my inside leg up and the band is coming across. So from here, I'm going to have increased adductive recruitment to try and stabilize because I've reduced my contact support in the lateral plane, but I've increased in the sagittal plane. So from here, I can do the same variations. Similarly, I could go to the half kneeling with my outside leg up. This will increase the glute contraction force that I'm using, and it'll put a greater demand to stay in that external rotation position as I'm going to want to be pulled into internal rotation. I could then increase or decrease my stability even more by going into a split stance position where I've reduced that contact ground force and I only have 2 spots of stability now. And now I have to stabilize, I can increase the demand on my hips, I can get my ankles in recruited more, and I can make it into a more total body exercise. Similarly, I can do that with the opposite leg forward, and again, it'll increase that challenge to the adduct. Reducing the stability in the sagittal plane, I can go with my feet together, and this is where I'm now in a standing position with a narrow base of support, and this is going to be a lot more challenging to my hips to resist that rotation along with my spine. I could go to a more normal stance position where I'm going to be holding and I'll resist again. In all of these, I'm having active glutes, active abs, recruiting as much of my trunk as possible while having good, calm breathing. I go to a very wide base of support. This is one that I really love to use with athletes who are sumo pullers. Help get them nice and strong in this top position where their hips feel comfortable in that top position. Now, changing up that and going to a position of very high stability, I could go and I can do a supine variation where now I'm going to be laying in a bridge position on the ground. When I'm here, I probably the maximum amount of stability I can have while doing this, and you can go and really challenge the recruitment by increasing the load in this position. So I said that there were just different variations, and I'm going to go through those now. So modifications in each of the positions that you could use would be different duration holds, so whether it be anywhere, I would say generally from 3 to 10 seconds and then multiple repetitions from there. Or we could go into different things where we're creating a sort of, so I'm building off of just the static hold variations. I can do other variations such as the drawing the alphabet. And in this, we are increasing the demand on stabilization by having to dynamically keep the trunk in place as the limbs are moving around. But where I have a challenge, and then instead of holding for 10, 20 seconds, whatever I had decided, I'm now going to be drawing the alphabets, drawing A, B, etc. through on. And as we do that, we can alternate side to side, obviously. But the challenge would be that as you go and speed moves and the band is pulling you throughout that, you're changing the dynamic of how much load is being applied throughout points of that exercise. So it's like small little perturbations that happen. Now in contrast, if I want to go and I want to try something else, instead of drawing letters, I could go through a different variation, such as where I have a weight plate on. And so if you're someone who trains by yourself and doesn't have someone to provide perturbations where you're being challenged to stay in place, we could go to a variation such as having a weight plate on, and then I go and now I'm holding, and that weight is again doing something similar where it's pulling onto the band, and then it begins increasing the pull. It's also providing a downward and upward force, and it again increases that demand to stay in place and lock it in. So to get us started on the Pallof Press variations, those are the major positions I like to use. Those are some modifications to those positions, and we'll cover more in depth in a further video on, but that's to get us started in that anti-rotation movements.